Attention students, are you feeling overwhelmed? Do you need a more flexible schedule? Athabasca University has you covered. AU offers over 850 online courses designed to fit your needs. That's 850 opportunities to earn credits that seamlessly transfer back into your program. Improve your GPA, explore new subjects, and study from anywhere. Visit athabascau.ca to browse our online courses and transform your academic journey.
From the roots up, CIUT 89.5 FM, Toronto.
We've come a long, long way together, through the hard times and the good. I have to celebrate you, baby. I have to praise you like I should. We've come a long, long way together, through the hard times and the good. I have to celebrate you, baby. I have to praise you like I should.
Hello, hello, and welcome back to Tracks from Abroad on CIUT 89.5 FM. We are broadcasting live from Hart House at the University of Toronto.
Here at Tracks from Abroad, we're playing the sounds of your world, interviewing guests from around the globe and sharing their diverse stories and experiences.
My name is Ian Gillis. I'm a student of classical voice performance here at the University of Toronto's Faculty of Music.
And I'm Amelia Spong, studying media and anthropology.
So, Amelia, last week you had a chance to sit down for a chat with Cameron. Cameron is a student of Celtic Studies here at the University of Toronto, is that right?
Yes, she is, and it was just such a lovely time. So our guest today is from Newfoundland, but she does have a very deep connection to Ireland. So we talked all about the shared history and culture between Ireland and Newfoundland, as well as her work here at U of T with the Irish language.
Right, so today's show is all about diaspora and intercultural exchange and the uniquely intertwined musical social cultures of Ireland and Newfoundland.
Absolutely. So stay tuned for the sounds of Newfoundland grunge and a few Irish favorites like the Cranberries and Sinead O'Connor. Hello and welcome back to Tracks from Abroad. I am in the studio today with Cameron.
Hey everybody, my name is Cameron Foley. I am from Newfoundland originally, but living in Ontario off and on for probably close to the past 20 years. Kind of been across the country in the meantime. I've lived literally from coast to coast. So Newfoundland on one side, born and raised, and then before coming back to Toronto, I just came from Vancouver Island. So literally one side of the country to the other.
Yeah, and today we're going to be talking about Ireland and its connection to Newfoundland and your personal connection to it. Well, first of all, how was your St. Patrick's Day?
St. Patrick's Day was great. I didn't get to quite celebrate the way that I would normally because it's just too busy right now. I'm graduating this year, so I have a lot on.
Yes.
But I was able to represent St. Mike's and U of T at the St. Patrick's Day parade on Sunday, which was a lot of fun.
Fun. Yeah, that's a Toronto staple.
Yes.
I love that every year. Yeah, I was wondering about like your familial connection to Ireland and how that was expressed in maybe your childhood and growing up in Newfoundland.
My familial connection is multiple generations removed, but I always find now that I'm looking back on growing up in the 90s, it was kind of like this weird kind of like Celtic revival in Newfoundland. So, I speak to my husband a lot and he always says, "Oh, you always say you're Irish." And I'm like, "No, I don't say I'm Irish. I'm Irish adjacent, if anything." But because a lot of what people would consider Irish was just kind of part of like our Newfoundland upbringing as well. So there's a lot of cultural connection there that like we don't talk about because it's just part of being from Newfoundland, like the music, the dancing, the accent, depending on where you go. And so it was all kind of just like rolled into being from Newfoundland. But as I got older, I started to lean in to that side of my culture and really wanting to know where my family came from. And so I started doing taking the steps of doing ancestry. I did my ancestry DNA, that kind of thing. And then really wanted to narrow down and hone in on like the parts of Ireland that my family came from and find out when they might have come across. And looking at it now, it looks like I'm probably about 4 or 5 generations removed. But most of my family came from like the Waterford, Wexford area, so in like the southeast part of Ireland. And from what I've gathered, the accent shows. So the accent has come through. Mine's a little different now because I've been away for so long, but I go right back into it. Just as soon as I talk to my mom on the phone or anything like that, because I noticed the younger generation has kind of lost it a bit. Even like my family from there that are younger, my nieces and stuff like that, it's not the same anymore.
From Newfoundland.
Yeah, so it's kind of the accent has kind of been watered down a little bit, even on the island.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, I feel like being from Newfoundland is unique in the Irish diaspora because at least I'm from the States. So in America, a lot of people can trace their ancestry to Irish immigrants, but there's not a strong cultural hold. It doesn't show up in the same way. Why do you think it's been preserved so closely in Newfoundland?
I think the first thing is geographical. We're an island, and for a long time, a lot of these small outport communities weren't connected by roads. So you could only get around by boat. There's still a lot of areas in Newfoundland where you can still only get to them by boat. And so if you got people from certain areas, because, like, I mean, there's different areas. So, like, the Irish Loop is what people hear about a lot. And I'm not far from that area. So where I grew up is not far from the Irish Loop, and I have a lot of friends from there and that kind of thing.
And what is the Irish Loop?
So the Irish Loop is basically, it's probably, I'm going to say roughly 3 to maybe 4 hour drive once you get maybe 40 minutes outside of St. John's.
Okay.
And you go through towns like Witless Bay, Bay Bulls, Furryland, Trepassey, those kinds of areas. And like Furryland might be known to people who maybe study history or anything like that because it's the colony of Avalon. So it's a very old settlement and one of the first settlements in the area. And their Irish accent is even thicker. And I feel like, obviously, hence the name, but even most of the artists from Newfoundland, wide-known artists, most of them come from that area because it's just, it seems to be very concentrated. We were able to hold on to our accent because each town had a different one, and like whether it's true or not, I've heard that like Newfoundland has 314 different dialects.
Wow.
And so there are parts of the island that even when I hear them speak, I have to listen real hard in order to be able to like decipher what they're saying because the brogue is so heavy. And we could tell, like, I went to school with like 5 or 6 different communities, and we could tell who was from which community just by how they spoke, and we might only be 5 to 10 minutes apart. So it's very distinct, and I think that was the main reason. And then once everything did start joining up, then you might have gotten some crossover with the dialects and stuff. But for the most part, it stayed because you didn't have access to anybody on the outside. So there was no way to water down those accents and no way to water down that kind of like the culture and everything like that. So it stayed distinct strictly for that reason.
Like, as an outsider, obviously I am generalizing your accent, but what makes it unique to your community, and are there any like unique traditions to your community?
Okay. I don't know if there'd be any unique things just specifically for my community, but definitely mostly from area. So like we kind of say we're from different bays. So like I'm from Conception Bay, and like that would be very different from somebody who would say they were from Trinity Bay or Green Bay or White Bay. It kind of just brings you to a different part of the province and different things. So I would say the main difference between the dialects and knowing where people are from, even parts of the island that people are from, is different words that they use for different things. So like my brother is married to a lady from like central Newfoundland, so like Grand Falls, Windsor, which is about 4 hours away from St. John's. And the words that she uses for specific things are very different from the words that we'd use. Say, for example, like the sticky sap from trees, what people would call sap, we call it turpentine, where I'm from, but she would call it myrrh.
And would that have anything to do with where people came from Ireland?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was definitely whether it was like more Irish influenced, more English influenced.
Next up, you'll be hearing Two Steps by Fur Packed Action here on Tracks from Abroad, CIUT 89.5 FM.
I waited to call, but you waited me out. Feels like an hour since you sat on my couch. And when I say that I miss you, you tell me good. If I'm the one who's
Hello and welcome back to Tracks from Abroad. I'm continuing my interview with Cameron today, who is from Newfoundland and Ireland. I remember you said something about like the music, and I feel like in my experience, I have extended Irish family. It's music is so important to, you know, after dinner, everyone gathers, you play the fiddle, you play the piano, like there's family songs. And so I was wondering what the influence you see of that kind of Irish musical culture on Newfoundland music.
Massive. So I would say the best way I heard it described actually by an Irish person was that Newfoundland music is Irish music on steroids. And it's because the foundational rhythm and everything might be the same, but it's sped up probably
really?
like 4 times or 8 times. So like, you know, Ireland has ceilidh dancing or set dancing, which is like, you know, kind of community dancing that's similar to line dancing, I guess is the best way to explain it. We have a version of it as well, but when you try to do it, like, you need to have the stamina to do it.
Really?
It's very, very fast. It's not quite as structured, which makes it probably a little easier for community members just to join in because there's no specific footwork the way there is in set dancing and ceilidh dancing in Ireland. But it's very, very fast. So, you know, we have a lot of the same instruments. A lot of the songs that I grew up listening to, which was a regular in my house every weekend, and I still listen to it to this day, which is the Irish Newfoundland Show, which plays on Saturdays. And a lot of the songs I probably didn't realize until I got older were actually remakes of Irish songs. Sometimes they'll stay true to the actual words and the rhythm and everything, but sometimes they'll change them up, and sometimes they'll make them a little more relevant to Newfoundland. And I feel like that connection comes from the fact that Newfoundlanders and Irish people write about what they live. So like a lot of the, you know, non-pub songs, but even some of the pub songs, because, you know, if you think about the song like Come Out You Black and Tans, that's a very political, very like considered a rebel song. It's that kind of, you know, but a lot of them are very slow and very melancholy and kind of have this longing for, you know, something like either going back to Ireland because they were forced to leave, or just writing narratives about political upheaval. Whereas in Newfoundland, that kind of changed a little bit, and we wrote about, like, resettlement was a big thing. So back in the, you know, most people may not know, or maybe they do, but Newfoundland only joined Canada in 1949. So that's not really a long history of us being part of the country. So we still have very much that separation there where we kind of see ourselves as part of it, but not quite part of it. And depends on who you talk to. Some of the older generation will still say, oh, you're living up in Canada now, because in their head, we're still not part of Canada. But the songs surrounding, like, you know, when resettlement happened was basically the government went in and said, we will pay you to basically put your house on a barge and we'll resettle you somewhere else. And a lot of people didn't really leave the places that they left and had this longing to go back. Yeah. And then, of course, the fishery is a huge part of that narrative as well.
Yeah.
Writing about, you know, the fishery not being handled the way it probably should have, or people feeling that they were slighted in some way. So that's where the similarities come from, and the stories may be different, but ultimately it's about this feeling of loss, and this feeling of this is what's happening in the world around me. So the way that I deal with that and the way I can come to terms with it is by singing about it.
This may be a big connection that I'm drawing together, but I feel like Ireland and Newfoundland have a similar almost sense of tragedy where, you know, Ireland's fought for its independence for a very long time, and Newfoundland had a similar history of refusing to become part of Canada. And to this day, you know, the older generation is very adamant that they're Newfoundlanders. They're not Canadian. And then similarly with the trauma of the famine, with their food being stolen by the English. And I feel like that's very mirrored in the Newfoundland fishing industry, where the local population was completely decimated. Cod, if I'm correct, was completely decimated and used by the Canadian government to make a profit, leaving the province in incredible debt. The almost traumas are reflected in each other, and how that comes up like among the community.
Yeah, I would say that's right on the money. So I guess another thing that I always like to joke about that are similarities between Newfoundlanders and Irish people is that we have a really long memory. So we don't tend to forget slights of the past very easily. And it always comes back up, like every year when, they're renegotiating crab prices or whatever. It's always this big upheaval. And, like, luckily, this is kind of what my focus is. I focus on fisheries policy internationally, and that's kind of where I hope to find myself once I graduate. So it's been a very big part of my narrative of, like, trying to understand how people outside the province see what happened, because it's in every course that I've done, every sustainability course that I've done, the fishery comes up. And it's always talked about kind of cold and as like, this is what you don't want to do if you want to maintain an industry. And it's because it was around for so long. It was the largest fishery. It was like, you're talking a 500-year fishery. This is not something that just came and went overnight. So I always like to try and make people understand that it wasn't just like an economic or even like a financial collapse. It was also like a cultural collapse, because it seemed like overnight an entire group of people had no idea who they were anymore and no ties to what they had always known. And so that makes it really hard for people and leaves a very bitter taste in people's mouths. And I feel like that's very similar to, I was part of like Cultus, which is kind of like the Irish language and culture group that tries to sustain the language and the culture in Canada and elsewhere. And talking to some of the older members who like came over as children in the 50s and 60s, they still harbor a lot of that animosity towards, like, unfortunately to say, but towards the crown and towards England and that kind of thing. And even though I know it's better, it's still always there, because there's still parts of the culture that are still being repressed and still being pushed down. Especially language is always one that's severely misunderstood, and I feel like it gets tied to political things when it doesn't need to be, because it's an indigenous language of people just wanting to hold on to that part of their history. Just like anybody else would anywhere. If you leave a French-speaking country and you go somewhere and you find a French group, you're going to want to cultivate that. So it gets politicized a lot when it doesn't need to be, but on the flip side of that, it still is very political in certain parts of Ireland, especially like the north of Ireland and stuff like that, where getting some of the concessions for the Irish language to be recognized, those kinds of things came much later and are still very active. Having lived in multiple provinces, Newfoundland is very inherently different. We still, and it's probably because we still have the ties to like our British, Irish kind of ancestry, so that culture is still very ingrained. You alluded to it earlier of like a lot of the older generation saying, oh, like, they're Newfoundlanders first. I will always be a Newfoundlander first. When I introduce myself to people and people ask me where I'm from, I will always say Newfoundland, and then I will say Canada. It's not that I have anything against Canada or anything like that. I fully 100% believe that Newfoundland is very fortunate to be part of Canada, because unless you're immersed in it, you don't know a lot of like the financial aid and stuff that Canada has given to Newfoundland over the years, especially post-moratorium. That is not to say that we are not severely misunderstood and that we do get pushed to the side a lot and probably don't get our fair shake. But we need to kind of let go of this whole thing of us versus them. Because until we do that, I don't know if we can progress to the way that we want to, that I know Newfoundland can, because we do have a lot to offer. There's very few people that I've ever met that have visited that are like, oh no, I don't like it there. It's always like, oh my God, I can't believe it's such a beautiful place. And I'm just like, yeah, it's one of those places. It's an expensive trip. That's what I say all the time. It's cheaper for me to go to Europe than it sometimes is for me to go home. But we need to start like opening ourselves up even a bit more to people, and like, understanding that not everybody is coming in to like exploit us in some way. But on the flip side of that, I do think a lot of people need to check their own biases at the door when they do visit, and don't allow those stereotypes to cloud how you're seeing things happen. And don't allow it to interfere with the experience. because a lot of those stereotypes are not true. A lot of, again, similar to the Irish thing, like there's a lot of sayings that people think we say that we don't. It will never come out of a Newfoundlander's mouth.
Yeah.
And those things need to be kind of like, it's kind of one of those things of like cultural awareness, right? Of understanding that we might be from the same country, but Canada is a very big place.
Yes.
And I would say mostly every province has somewhat of its own identity.
Definitely.
And we need to be just aware of that, because that's kind of what makes Canada what it is what makes us a place where people want to come, because you'll find your place. It might take you a minute, but you're going to find your place somewhere. Okay, everybody, it's Cameron here from Newfoundland, and up next you're going to be hearing a song called A Song Where I Come From by the Ennis Sisters, which are three sisters close to where I'm from in Newfoundland, and this song kind of encapsulates everything that I've been trying to say about Newfoundland, and Newfoundlanders being away and that longing to go home, and kind of like this feeling of connection that no matter where you are, you're always a Newfoundlander first.
And you'll be hearing that next on Tracks from Abroad, CIUT 89.5 FM.
How a song could take me back when I've been away so long makes me feel a little bit closer to where I belong. So give me that sweet sound and melody and let it wash down over me till I'm back safe upon your shore. If it's about rising up from hard times, kerosene and candlelight and wine, and getting up on deck or being shipwrecked and running the old black rum. If it's about far off dreams and big seas, music in the kitchen swinging round, she catching a hold and letting go, that's a song where I come from. Somehow the coldest nights just seem to melt away, and I forget all the reasons I couldn't stay, leaving those heartwarming memories, and I'm right back where I wanna be, and I could want for nothing more. If it's about rising up from hard times, kerosene and candlelight and wine, and getting up on deck or being shipwrecked and running the old black rum. If it's about far off dreams and big seas, music in the kitchen swinging round, she catching a hold and letting go, that's a song where I come from. You sing about Rocky Mountain High and New York State of mind, California dreaming, and that walking in Memphis feeling. Oh, but I'm all about those saltwater joys. If it's about rising up from hard times, kerosene and candlelight and wine, and getting up on deck or being shipwrecked and running the old black rum. If it's about far off dreams and big seas, music in the kitchen swinging round, she catching a hold and letting go, that's a song where I come from. That's a song where I come from. Oh, a song where I come from. Oh, that's a song where I
Specifically, I want to talk about the famine, about the fact that there never really was one. There was no famine. See, Irish people were only allowed to eat potatoes. All of the other food, meat, fish, vegetables, was shipped out of the country under armed guard to England while the Irish people starved. And then, in the middle of all this, they gave us money not to teach our children Irish. And so we lost our history, and this is what I think is still hurting me. You see, we're like a child that's being battered, has to drive itself out of its head because it's frightened, still feels all the painful feelings. But they lose contact with the memory, and this leads to massive self-destruction, alcoholism, drug addiction, all desperate attempts at running. And in its worst form becomes actual killing. And if there ever is gonna be healing, there has to be remembering and then grieving, so that there then can be forgiving. There has to be knowledge and understanding. All the lonely people, where do they all come from? An American army regulation says you mustn't kill more than 10% of a nation, because to do so causes permanent psychological damage. It's not permanent, but they didn't know that. Anyway, during the supposed famine, we lost a lot more than 10% of our nation through deaths on land or in ships of emigration. But what finally broke us was not starvation, but its use in the controlling of our education. Schools go on about Black 47, on and on about the terrible famine. But what they don't say is, in truth, there really never was one. Excuse me? The lonely people. I'm sorry, excuse me? Where do they all come from?
I can tell you in one word.
All the lonely people. Where do they all belong? So let's take a look, shall we? The highest statistics of child abuse in the EEC, and we say we're a Christian country, but we've lost contact with our history. See, we used to worship God as a mother. We're suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. Look at all our old men in the pubs. Look at all our young people on drugs. We used to worship God as a mother. Now look at what we're doing to each other. We've even made killers of ourselves, the most childlike, trusting people in the universe. And this is what's wrong with us. Our history books, the parent figures lied to us. I see the Irish as a race like a child that got itself bashed in the face. And if there ever is gonna be healing, there has to be remembering and then grieving, so that there then can be forgiving. There has to be knowledge and understanding. All the lonely people, where do they all come from? All the lonely people, where do they all come from?
We stand on the brink of a great achievement. In this island, there is no solution to be found to our disagreements by shooting each other. There is no real invader here. We are all Irish in all our different kinds of ways. We must not now or ever in the future show anything to each other except tolerance, forbearance, and neighborly love.
Because of our traditions, everyone here knows who he is and what God expects him to do.
I woke up this morning with a head full of stuff, and I just had to turn it loose. I want you to know and understand that if you want me, here I am. 'Cause I'm tired of always waiting for the door to ring. And I'm tired of seeing things in eyes I know aren't there. Confrontation, I don't mind, it's the anticipation of the 101, of the 102 fictions that I've let tell the story of my life so far. Has it been the same for you? Oh, pistols at dawn or tea at 11, it's all the same to me. Obviously, it's up to you to choose. Confrontation, I don't mind, it's the anticipation of the 101, of the 102. Of the 103, the 104. I've watched good love walk out the door. I don't wanna watch that anymore. All for the worse, all for the better. If it all falls apart, if it all falls to I woke up this morning with a head full of stuff, and I just had to tell the truth. Confrontation, until that time it's the anticipation of the 101, of the 102. Oh! Of the 103, of the 104. Until that time, until that time, oh, until that time, 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 until that time. In frustration, I find I'm driving over the route of occupation, and my 101 becomes 100.
Hello and welcome back to Tracks from Abroad. I am just wrapping up my interview with Cameron today on our final part of Newfoundland and Ireland. Hello and welcome back to Tracks from Abroad. I'm continuing my interview with Cameron today about Ireland and Newfoundland. So last year you actually got the opportunity to visit Ireland. Can you tell me a bit about what you were doing there and what that experience was like for you?
Yeah, so I got the opportunity. I won an award called the ICUF Award. So it's the Ireland Canada University Foundation Award, Irish Language Award. So I was able to go for 3 weeks to the Gaeltacht, which is basically the native Irish-speaking areas in Ireland. And the one that I went to was called An Caharua, which is in Connemara, about 40 minutes outside of Galway City. And it was a fully immersive experience. So we went, we actually got to stay with Irish-speaking families who took us in for 3 weeks and went to classes 6 days a week.
Oh, wow.
For 3 weeks. And amongst that, we would do obviously like our language learning. So we would get we would find out where our proficiency was, and then we would get put in whichever class we needed to go in. But amongst all that, then we got to do like the cultural side of things as well. So we got to do like Seanosh singing and Seanosh dancing, which is basically traditional a cappella Irish singing in the Irish language, and a specific type of kind of like very tight Irish step dancing is the best way. Not like the big river dance type dancing that most people would probably associate with Irish dancing. We got to do Irish storytelling from like legitimate Irish speaking storytellers from the community, from within the community. We one of the highlights for me was we actually got to go to a little place called Rossmuck, I believe was the name of it. And it was about maybe 30 minutes from where we were staying and where the school was. And it was actually the home of Pádraig Pearse, which was one of the 1916 Easter Uprising Irish heroes. And we got to like go to his home and kind of like poke around a little bit and just kind of see all the different like newspaper clippings and different things that he like, because the house is, you know, still stands where it was, and they kind of left it as it was. The beds and everything are the same. So just kind of seeing what even a traditional old Irish cottage looks like. And being there and kind of like being part of that, because that's kind of like my interest, my huge interest in Irish history is that era. I always call myself a Michael Collins fangirl, and I will fully say that with Chet. And like I brought my mandolin with me because I was like, okay, you know, I'm going to Ireland. We're doing this thing. So I do want to have my instrument with me so that way if I want to play, I can. And I was able to a couple of times while I was there, and I was able to get to do some singing. But the really cool thing was like, you know, lunchtime. We would have our half an hour or our hour off for lunch. And some of the teachers would come down with their bowhorn or their tin whistle, and some of the students brought their own instruments, and we would have basically like, you know, a session in the lunchroom. Yeah. And anybody could join in, anybody could do whatever they want. And it was just every day that went by, I felt myself getting deeper and deeper and deeper immersed in it. And it was everything and more of anything that I pictured in my head, because obviously you have this thing of like, you build something up in your head and then you're worried that when you get there, it's not going to be anything with what you built up in your head. Well, this was tenfold what I built in my head. And I tell everybody, for the first time in my life, it was like going home to a place that I'd never been. Yeah. And so, like, even more so than Newfoundland, because I've left Newfoundland for such a long time ago that, like, there is even that little bit of a disconnect for me now when I go home. It's a bit different. I see it differently. But going to Ireland was like, okay, this is what it was supposed to feel like. So every day that went by, we were just like, you know, I was in a group of 12 in our house. And I had the people from Newfoundland there because Memorial sends people on this scholarship as well. So I had 4 people in my house that were from Mun as well. 3 of them were from Newfoundland. 1 was from Ontario. But like, we all got very close and very tight knit, and we still maintain our relationships now. And as our departure time was getting closer, we were all getting like a little bit sadder every day, because we were like, none of us want to leave. We didn't want to come home. It just felt so right to be there. And it solidified in me that, okay, language learning is extremely hard for me. Yeah. I didn't grow up learning another language, so it was very hard as an adult, especially an older, mature student, to be learning a new language at 38, 39 years old. But it was so worth it for me. Like the stress that I go through with it, and the frustration that I go through, and when I feel like I'm not at the level that everybody else in my class is or anything like that, it kind of fades away when I kind of like listen to the songs and I remember my time there. And then I remembered, you know, like I applied for the scholarship again this year and I got it. Yeah. And it just reinforced into me, okay, I did make the right decision, even though it's a bit of a difficult one. And a lot of people might consider it not the type of language that probably would be beneficial. But I feel like culturally it's grounded me in my Irish heritage and kind of wanting to know where I came from. While still understanding that I'm not from there and I don't ever claim to be Irish. But my Newfoundland upbringing is Irish adjacent, as I mentioned earlier.
Yeah. You mentioned you were there on scholarship. I was wondering how you got involved with the Irish language at U of T, and, you know, if you want to speak a little bit about your pretty special role within, is it within the Celtic Studies department?
Sort of. So okay. I'm Celtic Studies adjacent. Okay. Again, I'm very like my program is European Affairs. Okay. So as part of the European Affairs program, you have to do a European language that isn't English. Okay? So as I was looking into St. Mike's a bit more, I came across the Celtic Studies program, and I was like, oh, that's curious. I've been trying to, in my own work and in my environmental work, political work, been always trying to like bring it back to Ireland and use like, you know, Irish politics or like the fishing industry in Ireland. And that's been trying to be the focus of what I do with my career.
Irish has very recently become an officially recognized language by the EU.
I think it's extremely important. kind of separately for different reasons, whether you're in Ireland or you're part of the diaspora. So as part of the diaspora, a lot of us it's kind of like they're in the same boat as me of wanting to try to connect with your history. A lot of them, are much closer removed, like their grandparents might have been from Ireland or even their parents, but may not have spoken the language. So it's just a way to deepen that connection.
All right, everybody, turn up your volumes and grab the tissues. This is for all you lovers with a little hole in your hearts. It's time to let it linger.
When it's not always raining, there'll be days like this. When there's no one complaining, there'll be days like this. Everything falls into place like the flick of a switch. Well, my mama told me there'll be days like this. When you don't need to worry, there'll be days like this. When no one's in a hurry, there'll be days like this. When you don't get betrayed by that old Judas kiss. Oh, my mama told me there'll be days like this. When you don't need an answer, there'll be days like this. When you don't need a chance, there'll be days like this. When all the parts of the puzzle start to look like they fit, then I must remember there'll be days like this. When everyone is up front and they're not playing tricks. When you don't have no freeloaders out there get their kicks. Well, that's nobody's business, the way that you want to live. I'll just have to remember there'll be days like this. And no one steps on my dreams. There'll be days like this. When people understand what I mean, there'll be days like this. When you ring out the changes of how everything is. Well, my mama told me there'll be days like this. Oh, no, 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 no. Told me there'll be days like this. Oh, my mama told me there'll be days like this. Oh, my mama told me there'll be days like this. Oh, my mama told me there'll be days like